So as I said earlier on, let me know on the chat if you won't hear me, because I won't be sitting. I'm in a classroom. I'm going to go by the CLOs, and for each and every CLO, I'm just going to take a sample question and then go through how we can actually go through that particular question based on the case, based on a case study. Saif, I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean? Saif, I don't understand. Yeah, we are doing CLO2. The exam will cover CLO2, CLO3, CLO4, and CLO5. Correct. CLO1 is not included, yeah? However, it would be good to still revise the CLO1, because when it comes to answering some of the questions, you probably need an understanding of what you've gained in CLO1 to be able to answer or to give a more vibrant answer to those particular questions. But we are not expressly, we are not actually assessing CLO1. So you are right. So we are looking at CLO2, CLO3, CLO4, and CLO5. And the example that I've given starts from CLO2. But you'll see, for example, and I'm answering some of these questions, you'll see how referring back to CLO1 may still earn you more marks and showcase that you actually know what you're talking about. So, for example, if you go to, for example, I would give, for example, when you're assessing the CLO5, CLO5 is an applied question, yeah? So you've got a scenario, for example, and within that particular scenario, you need to come up with some action plan. So your understanding of what is in the CLO1, for example, the need for IT to be aligned with the business, can actually help you to answer that particular question. So it's not expressly examined, but it is, I would say, implicitly examined, in the sense that you need that particular information to be able to give a more vibrant answer. Okay, so let's look at the case study CLO2. If there's one thing I've said about this particular course, IT strategy, one thing I want you to take away from this course, if you don't take any other thing from this particular course, yeah, I just want you to take away two things from this particular course: that IT needs to be aligned with the business. Put in other words, IT should only exist to support your business.
Doctor.
If you have an IT in an organization that is not supporting your business, there's no need to have that particular information technology. Okay? It's a waste of money. Okay? The primary thing is the business has a mission, the business has a goal, the business have objectives that it needs to meet. That is the priority. That is the priority. So the first thing, as you said, if you remember what we covered in the course, is about IT supporting the business. So we always start with, for example, defining what the business strategy is. In other words, where is the business and where does the business wants to go? Only once we've defined our business strategy, then do we now think about what IT strategy is about. We think of how is IT actually going now to support what we want to do as a business. That is what I want you to take away. That's the takeaway from this course. IT is there to support your business strategy. IT is there to support the business to meet its goals and its objectives. And what we do in the IT strategy and governance is to try and help the business to be able to meet their goals using information technology. So we want to make sure that information technology that they are bringing in through the door, they're not just throwing in information technology because somebody wants has seen something outside there. Oh, I went to another company and I saw they're using, for example, customer relationship management. Therefore, I want to implement that customer relationship management in my organization. No. Is there business need for it to be implemented in the first place? Is it going to support the business? So that's the takeaway. That's just the takeaway that I want you to take away from this particular course, IT strategy and governance. How we can ensure that the IT that we are implementing in the organizations are actually helping the businesses to meet their objectives. Yes, Abdul Rahman.
Doctor.
I don't understand what you can unmute and talk.
Doctor. Hello.
Abdul Rahman.
Doctor.
You've said please, doctor. Hello.
شكله ما يسمعنا بس يشوف.
Oh, I thought I'm sharing. Okay. Not sure, that's fine. Let me just see that. Can you now see? Okay. Sorry, guys. I didn't understand that. I didn't know that you're not seeing the screen. But I haven't. I was just talking off head. Yeah, I'm recording. Are you not hearing me? Can you hear me clearly? Let me know if you can hear me clearly. If not, then I have to wear my earphones. Yeah, I can't hear you, unfortunately. I don't know why. It looks like I can't hear you, but I'm not so sure why. I will send the recorded session, Mohammed, yeah? I'll send a link. I'm going to send an email with a link, and you can access it from that particular link, yeah? Let me just check the output device. Yes, you are right. It could be the output device. Let me just have a look at that and see. Speaker 2, Tagger says, okay, let me try use my local. Okay, can somebody then now try and talk?
Hello.
Just
Doctor.
somebody just try and talk and see if I could hear.
Hello. دكتور جيم ما يسمع.
ما يسمعنا ابو عبد الله.
زي كتبوا لنا ما تسمعنا ترى.
I've changed as Said as suggested. I've changed the output device to my local computer. I think it was using. Yeah, still can't hear you guys. It's okay. I'll be watching my screen. I'll be watching my screen. Just type them. I'll be oftenly watching my screen. So I said we are looking at, we'll be assessing CLO2, CLO3, CLO4, and CLO5. And I'll just take sample questions, and then we have a look at those particular questions. So see what we have on the screen. We are from Sharjah campus. Will you send the recording? Yes, I will. As long as I've got your email, I'll send everybody who is here and who received an invite will get this particular recording. You will get a link and you'll just go and click on that link and you can download the recording.
For Sharjah campus, I will send you the link.
Let's look at this, what we have. I also sent these particular slides. So everybody should have these slides. If you don't have the slides, then remind me after this and I'll send you the slides, okay? So let's have a look at this, for example, yeah? I don't think we have any problem with this, okay? So we, as part of the IT governance, we have frameworks. And when you talk about frameworks are just tested best practices that have been used over and over time and have yielded positive results. And therefore, we assure that if we use them, for example, they can be able to help us. So usually what the frameworks have, they've got the processes embedded in them that if we follow those processes and the procedures in those particular frameworks, then we assure that we can get positive results in terms of how we manage our IT. And one of the things that you're going to do when you leave this place and you go to your workplace, you may be in a position where you've got to make decisions about the frameworks that needs to be implemented. Now, we need to know how to choose which framework, for example, is suitable in your organization. And that's why we have these frameworks, and that is why we are testing to see how can you actually be able to make the right choice of a framework depending on the scenario that you're facing within your organization. So let's have a look at this, yeah? So ABC is a multinational corporation that is facing challenges, okay? And because of those, ABC challenges can be summarized as follows: the lack of standardized processes, lack of outsourcing strategies, misalignment with the business goals, security vulnerabilities, compliance issues. Those are typical issues that you get when you don't have right IT governance in place. Typical, okay? Very, very standard problems that you get with the IT if you're not following proper IT governance. Now, this is where you should be interested. This is where your interest should be. As CIO, in other words, you being the CIO, you've been appointed as to set. I've been appointed and has set out the following goals for the 2025. Okay, to deliver high quality service that aligns with IT services the business needs. To set standards, terminology, and guidelines for the project management, to facilitate whatever. So those 4 goals there. Now let's go and see the question that based on that, you ask these 2 questions here. You have asked to find suitable IT governance for each of the 4 goals. So which are our goals? Our 4 goals are these ones here. Let me just do this. This is where we should be interested in. You're supposed to come up with suitable IT governance framework for each of the 4 goals. I forgot the framework there. So which are our goals? The goals are there. So the first goal is to deliver high quality service that aligns to the business. So the keywords there, high quality IT service, okay? And IT service that is actually aligning with the IT services. Some of the keywords that you should look at, okay? Standard terminology and guidelines for the project management. Outsourcing is a keyword that you should look out for. Things like manage risk, meet compliance, okay? For example, comprehensive IT governance, okay? So look at your goals, and I've come up with some guideline or some of the things that you could look out for. So in this particular, what you can see there, I've listed all the frameworks that you've covered. You've got the COSO, you've got the ITIM, you've got the COBIT, ISO 27001, project management frameworks, CCMI, and the ECM. And in there, I've said how you can justify a framework and some of the keywords that you can look for in a case study. So for example, if you look at, the only thing that is remaining here, because I did this, is ITIL. I didn't include ITIL here because I've covered ITIL elsewhere. ITIL is a big one and is going to be, but some of the keywords, for example, when you're looking about ITIL, is just anything. Anytime you see something about the IT service, IT services, things like incidents, yeah, things like problems, things like request fulfillment. I'll talk about the IT, but let's just talk about these ones to begin with. We first covered COSCO. I think that was one of the first frameworks that we covered. COSO, some of the things you should look out for in the case study are things like lack of internal controls, financial reporting. In fact, COSO and COBIT are very similar. Very, very similar, except that COSO is mainly used in the financial industry. So the key word that would actually differentiate COSO and COBIT is COSO is mainly used in the financial sector and for financial reporting, whereas COBIT tends to be quite generic. And COBIT is quite comprehensive as well. COBIT is quite, it's like a framework, an umbrella framework. So it can actually embed other frameworks within, you can actually embed other frameworks within the COBIT. But in terms of if you're looking for what to look for in COSO, things like weak internal controls, financial reporting, compliance with the laws and the regulations. That can actually tell you if you see such a thing, for example, in a case study, and you're asked to identify or suggest a framework, then COSO could be one of the ones that you could actually suggest. And if you're to be asked to justify your choice, most often it is to help. It helps in designing, implementing, and maintaining effective internal controls. So COSO has what we call the processes that actually can help you to implement your internal controls. I'm not going to go through those processes because we don't have that much time and latitude to do that. But that is one way you could look at that. ITIM is something that you've already covered, and I think it was quite tested heavily in the other exams that we did. But one of the things that you know that there's a problem with the IT investment in an organization is if the IT investments are ad hoc. In other words, it's unstructured, yeah? Somebody from the business, from the sales department says, oh, I want these particular systems, and it is bought. Somebody in the HR department says, I want this particular system, and it is bought. There's no actually proper way in which the IT investments are being carried out. Then you definitely know that there's a problem with the IT investment. And those kind of things can be cured by the ITIM, okay? If you see things like, for example, budget constraints, that can be cured by the ITIM, because one of the things that ITIM does is what we call financial feasibility, checking whether what we want to bring, if you want to bring in an IT, first we make sure that it is actually aligned with the business, it's going to support the business. Then the second thing, can we afford it? Do we have funds for it? Okay, so ITIM would address things like budget constraints. You won't have budget constraint because ITIM has something other than the financial feasibility. It has something called prioritization of your investments. It can help you prioritize. You need to do, for example, 4 IT investments. Which one would take priority? ITIM can actually help the organization to prioritize, and therefore this problem with the budget constraints would not arise, because we would say, okay, in this particular quarter, we are going to do this IT project because we have money for it. The rest can wait because it's not very important to the business. So that's how, so the keywords are those ones there. Decisions are just being made by intuition, okay? Minimal oversight over and control or objects. I added something here, for example, budget constraints. That's another indicator that actually you're not actually properly doing your IT investments properly. Okay, so it can help with and the justification that you can provide for that, it provides a roadmap for organization to improve their IT investment management practices, ensure that the IT resources are delivering maximum value. So at the end of the day, when you invest on the IT, you want it to give you back give back the value. That value can be measured in many ways: return on investment, how effective are your processes. For example, the quality of your IT service, how many downtimes are we having since we did that, and all those, okay? So it can help with the ITIM. COBIT is very, very similar to COSOs, as I said earlier on. What do you look out for? Things like misaligned IT goals, weak risk management. You see them in your case study, then you definitely should be thinking about COBIT. Lack of internal controls, look at that. Lack of internal controls is also there in the COSO. As I said, in most cases, you may find that you confuse the two of them, but it's not actually confusion. It works. Lack of governance and, for example, oversight. So you see those things, then think about COBIT and what would be the justification? So base it on the case study, but generically, you can say that it is to help business aligned with the business goals, manage risk, and meet the compliance needs, because that's what actually COBIT is all about, okay? Then you go to something like ISO 27001. This is your framework for any security-related issues. So if you're doing you're seeing a lot of unauthorized access, for example, users having more privileges than they require, cybersecurity issues, okay? If you see those kind of things, like what we have there, sorry. I don't know what has just happened. Okay. Yeah, things like unauthorized access, security vulnerabilities, then you should actually think of ISO 27001. Then you've got things like poor project management, cost overrun, for example, poor planning, insufficient resources allocated to the project. Those are typical problems that occurs when you don't have Omar, COSO, yes, COSO was in whatever. I'm just looking at all the frameworks, yeah? As I said, I would revise generically. I would not say that you need to concentrate on COSO, no, because yes, but I'm just saying, how can you know, for example, something is COSO and something is COBIT? And for example, there's a very thin line between COSO and COBIT. Okay. I'm just trying to get my pen back, but okay, I've got it back, okay? So, poor project management, cost overruns, poor planning, insufficient resources, you see those ones, think about any of those frameworks, and you can provide that as, for example, your justification, okay? CCMI, mainly used for software development, okay? So some of the keywords that you could see in your case study would be things to do with the software development, system development, software development maturity. You see those keywords in your whatever, then think about the CCMI. And ECM, the main thing that you'll see there is things like, for example, outsourcing. So having looked at that, let's now look at this so that we'll go very quickly. If you look at that, the answer for that, the framework that you suggest for that is ITIL. Anything to do with the service, okay? High quality service. Anything to do with the IT service management or quality of IT is always ITIL, okay? The other things that you could have looked for are things like, for example, poor incident management. You see anything to do with the poor change management? I don't know what has happened to this pen. It's just not working. Okay. Poor change management. You see any of those ones? ITIL, okay. There is poor incident management, poor, okay. Things like there's always continued, for example, downtime. Systems is always going down, okay. The system is always going down. That's a problem with the IT service management, because we are actually either not monitoring our systems continually and be able to respond to any incidents and events that are happening. Then that is a problem with whatever. So ITIL, those are some of the other indicators that you could tell you that the problem is we need ITIL, okay? Set of standard terminology and guidelines for the project management. If you go back to here, it basically means we can choose one of those frameworks. It doesn't matter whether it is PMBOK, PPMI, but it is something for project management. It's addressing project management, okay? Right. So those are the given answers and the justification. You should have these slides, all of you. If you don't have them, I'm going to send them again. Just so that we can save time. The first one would have been ITIL, and the justification would be what I'm having there. The second one would have been any of those project management frameworks, and the answer would be what I've given there. The third one would have been ECM, and the reason why it is ECM, if you look at, for example, it's about outsourcing, okay? Outsourcing is a keyword. It's something to do with the outsourcing. The framework that we use for outsourcing is ECM. That's why it is ECM. This one has to do with the things like the manage risk and compliance. And if you go back to my table here, weak risk management, okay? Whatever, what would help you to manage risk, for example, is, your COVID. But having said that, almost all the frameworks have some element of risk management embedded in them. Okay, let's go to the second question for the CLO2, sample question for the CLO2. Now, you may be asking me, but why? It looks very simple, yeah? If you want to know one thing that is continually changing is IT. In fact, IT changes so fast that even before it drops, it becomes obsolete. One of the main challenge you're going to have as an IT profession is the pace at which IT is changing. You have to do a lot of changes. In fact, I've worked in my work. Very few weekends did I not work, because most of the changes, we used to do changes, and all the changes are usually done over the weekend. Why do we do them over the weekend? We do them over the weekend because that is when system is not mostly used, and that is when even if we are going to disrupt the services, it's not going to be felt by the customers, because not many of them are using it, few of them are using it. So we always do those changes. And one of the things you'll always be doing would be doing changes. We will be doing a lot of changes. So we need to understand what change is all about, and we need to be able to manage those particular change. So you need to have a knowledge of what kind of changes and how do you react to those particular changes? Now, changes, there are two kinds of changes. We've got the internal, which can be motivated internally. So we call them internal change. In other words, as a business, we have planned that we are going to do that particular change because either it is going to give us some competitive advantage, or because it is aligning with the way what you want the business to achieve, or because there's a change maybe in technology and therefore we feel that we need to whatever. So internal simply means, yes, the reason for carrying out the change is derived from within, from the business need, okay, from within. External are those things that we don't have say over. So if the government passes a law and we need to comply with that law, we have to do the change, not because we want to do it, but because we have to comply to remain in business. So those are two kinds of changes. Or let's say there is, like when there was COVID, and we had to change, and everybody, okay, the government passed the rule that people cannot go to the offices, people have to work from home. Now, as a business, we had to comply. Not that we wanted to, but we have to comply because that is a regulation. So that is an external change. So there's the internal and the external change. And one of the most important things that you have to do as an IT professional is how to manage change. ITIL has something called change management. How do we manage change? There's a process in ITIL called change management, and that is what actually would guide how we bring in these changes in a way that is not going to be disruptive and is not going to cause downtime to our IT services. It's not going to compromise our IT services. So we'll see actually when we get to the ITIL, because ITIL is a very important framework that is widely used in the organization. So we've got those two changes, internal or external. Then there is also the reaction. How do you react to those changes? The reaction can be either you planned for it or you've not planned for it. Plan for it is mainly things which are internal. So things that organization have sat down, deliberated, and planned for, we can implement them in a planned way, in a planned fashion. Those ones where you've got to do it because something has happened, incident has happened, or a legislation has happened, then those particular ones, we call them reactive changes. So you need to be able to know, based on, for example, a case study, whether a change is planned or it is a reactive change. So let's just go through this, for example, and it's more or less the same thing that you'll get in an exam. So in this particular one, Abu Dhabi Financial Group, a leading innovator in the financial technology space, has established itself as a trusted provider for blockchain, whatever. Its existing system, while robust and secure, has primarily supported a limited number of, to capitalize on the burgeoning cryptocurrency market and enhance its competitive edge, the company has embarked on an ambitious project to expand its payment system to accommodate a wider range of digital assets. Now, I'm not going to be asking if I was doing Mara, what did you say? I didn't get what you're... Did you ask me a question there or what?
Yes, doctor, I asked you before, but I didn't show to you.
Yeah. I was just explaining. COSO is not... COSO, yes, is not...
No, I know about COSO, about the project
is not...
management I told
you
you.
won't have... There will be no answer which will have COSO because it's not in... But I was saying, how do you differentiate COSO from COVID? If that is what Mara is trying to explain. Yes, I agree. Mara, you're right. That's what I was trying to do. Analyze the driving force behind the change as either internal and provide comprehensive rationale for your selection. Determine whether the organization response is reactive or proactive. So in this particular case, you can see the company is doing what it has planned. There is something to capitalize on burgeoning cryptocurrency market. In other words, it has realized that there's an opportunity to reap from the cryptocurrency market. It's therefore planning to implement that particular payment system. Therefore, it is something that is internal. The reason for change is going to be made for the strategic purpose. They're trying to strategically position themselves to reap from this burgeoning cryptocurrency market, and therefore it is internal. That is the reason why it is internal. It is definitely proactive. It's been planned for, and the reason why it is, you can see it has a project. It is embarked on an ambitious project. There's a project. What you do in the project is planning for a change, and therefore it is a reactive. You don't need to differentiate between PMBOK, PPM, and Prince2 because those are all project management frameworks, and you can choose to use any of them depending on what your organization uses. So as part of enterprise architecture, your organization will decide which framework they'll use. For example, my place, we are using Prince2. So it's part of the enterprise architecture decision to decide which framework you'll have to use, okay? But in terms of answering the questions to do with anything to do with the project management in the exam, you can use any of them. You can pick any of them. Mara, I hope that answers your question. Mara, just tell me yes if that answers your question. Omar, because it is internal, because it's something they're planning. They can choose not to do it, or they can choose to do it. It's not forcing them. They're not being forced. Look at it. Do they have an option not to get into the cryptocurrency market? Yes, they have an option. They can choose either to embark on the cryptocurrency or embrace a cryptocurrency, or they can choose not to. There's nobody who is forcing them. But as a business, they've seen that it is important as part of their strategic positioning. Therefore, it is something they are doing willingly. They are embarking on it willingly. They are not being forced. So the fact that they want to do competition to be competitive is their decision. They can say they've got a strong, let's say this, they can say they have a strong strategic position even without the cryptocurrency. Therefore, they can choose not to embrace it. Or they would say there's no value proposition for having cryptocurrency, and therefore they choose not to do it. So it is internal, and it is proactive. And it is proactive because there's a project that has been set to be able to implement that. Omar, I hope that answers your question. Let me move to the second one. This is CLO3, and this particular CLO covers, one of the things that it covers, for example, is ITIL. ITIL is a very robust framework for IT service management. I haven't worked anywhere in any organization that has not implemented ITIL. It's a widely used framework that is used for IT service management. And ITIL actually has, we'll see later on, ITIL has two main things that you should concentrate on in ITIL. The first one is the roles, and the second one is the processes. When we talk about the roles, we're just talking about the group of people with specialized skills, yeah? The group of people that have specialized skills. We call them teams, yeah? You can also call them teams. Those ones you need, Omar, those ones you need to know. You need to know those ones from the slides, yeah? KPIs, you need to know them from the slide because KPIs won't be on the case study. So for example, in this particular here, if you read this case study here, there's no KPI. But the KPI is what will tell you, how are we doing once we've done the implementation of what we are doing. So KPIs measures the performance. Okay, let's say we want to implement incident management, IT incident management, okay? How are we going to measure our performance that we are actually doing well with our incident management? So for example, we want to see how many incidences were resolved, how many incidences were logged, how many of them were solved, for example, within the SLA agreements, SLAs, okay? Yes, Obaid, role is equal to the function. So the role is the same as a function. So function, so those are just groupings of people that have specialized skills. Esther, that's a good question. You can answer KPIs from, it would be good to know some of them. So for example, incident management, for example. Okay, incident management. I wonder how you can answer that from your head, but if you were to tell me number of incidences, for example, recorded, you want to see all the number of incidences that you've logged in. You want to see how many of those incidences were resolved within time. You want to know how many of those incidences, okay, are, for example, recurring. Yeah. Yes, Obaid, service desk is an example. So service desk is a role. Any team, service desk, some people call it service desk, some people call it IT help desk. So in HCT, you don't have service desk, you have IT help desk. IT help desk is actually a service desk. In other words, service desk is just the first place of call where when you have an incident or you need anything, you go to. It's just a single point of contact, yeah? So that is correct. So your service desk is an example of a role. Your database management team, for example, is a function or is a role. Your network team, for example, is a technical. Okay, they usually say technical, but within the technical, you won't find organization just having a technical team. They'll have different technical teams, and they'll call them different names. So you'll find database administration team, you'll find network administration team, you'll find development team, you will find, for example, storage team, you will find, for example, OS team, you will find, for example, middleware team, okay? So any grouping of people, any group of people with specialized skills who are doing a job, IT job, we call them a function or we call them a role. And these guys who are doing these roles will be guided by the processes, by the ITIL processes. So let's say, for example, service desk guys, if you go to them with an incident, something has happened, for example, to your account, you've locked your account and you want them to unlock your account, and you go to the service desk, they will do that using incident management. So first, they will record it. They will take your credentials, they will take your details and say, this is you, this is you. What's the problem? You've locked your account, okay? And then either the service desk guys can do it, but if they cannot do it, then they would pass that ticket. But the first thing they do is to raise a ticket, open a ticket, an incident ticket. Once they've done that incident ticket, then you can actually now assign that particular ticket to a role or a function. Let's say the Windows team to unlock, for example, your account. But all the roles, they work with the processes. The processes guides what they're doing or guides them on how to do the things that they have to do. It's ITIL, Mariam. It's ITIL and no, the 5 are phases. Yes. Let's wait. We'll get to that. Okay. We'll get to that. So I'll cover those ones in a minute. Yeah. In the next few slides, I'm going to cover those questions that you're asking. So let's read this question and see what we need to concentrate on. So Skyka Automobile is a forward-thinking or whatever, so that's really nothing. Due to the challenges in handling all the customer requests, there are often delays in resolving technical issues. To address this challenge, SCA initiated troubleshooting service which acts as a single point of contact. So that is a role. That one there is a role. This is a role. This is a service desk role, SD. For managing incidents, anything you see for managing incident, we are talking about incident management and coordinating the restoration of normal operations. I don't know why this thing is really playing up today. Okay, so according to which phase is described in the scenario and why? Now, for us to answer those questions, let's just go through, before I come back to those two questions, let's go through the ITIL summary. Okay, this is just my summary of ITIL. First, I talked about the roles, okay? So service, ITIL has roles. Roles is just groups of people, yeah? So that's what it is. The other name for it is a function. You can also call it a function. Somebody said a function earlier on. Now, we've got the service desk. Others call it IT help desk. IT help desk, like in HCT. That's what others call it, IT help desk. It's the same thing. You can call it anything, but they act as your single point of contact. They collect every issue that you've got within the IT with the IT service management. And then you've got the technical management. Now you will not find this as technical management team. We always have different teams here. So in most organizations, for example, you'll find, for example, network team. We just won't have one technical management team. No, nobody implements just a technical management team. They'll have technical management team, but they'll have different teams. Like you've got this network team, you've got, for example, the database management team. For example, they call them the DBAs. You will always have security team, especially in the bank, very specialized team. This thing, my pen is really playing today. You'll have teams like the storage team. You will have things like OS team, and the OS team in most of the organizations I've worked in will always have Linux team because it requires very different skills, and you'll always have Windows team. Though they'll be working closely. So the Windows team guys deals with anything that is running on Windows, anything that is Windows related. Linux guys deals with everything. But these are what we call the technical teams. Now, IT operations management team, we call it ITOC. IT Operations Control Center. Not many organizations have it, but critical organizations, for example, banks, always have it. These are good. There's another variant of it which is called CISOC. Security, something CISOC, yeah, for the security guys. This is for critical systems. These are systems which, for example, cannot go down even for a single minute. So like your payment gateways, yeah, your ATMs, yeah, those are very critical systems. So they would have these teams called IT operations management team, but they always call them ITOC. These are guys who work on 24/7 shifts. Their eyes are just glued in a big room on the computers, and they are monitoring all your IT assets. They are looking for any events that are happening on the actual IT assets. They're checking the disks, anything that has been configured to be monitored, they get the alerts on a real time. And if there's anything that is flagged up like a P3 ticket or anything or any warning, then they call the technical teams to fix the problem before it backfires. Okay, so those are what we call the roles. Okay, and out of these roles, I just wanted to talk about the service desk. Those are some of the things that the service desk does. Okay, now let's go back here. Now now that we know the roles. Roles are those group of people that we will be doing the things for us and helping us resolve the issues. Now we come back to the phases that somebody was asking. We have 5 phases, and I've listed them in a chronological manner or chronological order. We start with the service strategy. That's where we start, where with anything we strategize, we do the whatever. Then we go to the service design, then the service transition, then service operation, and then continuous service improvement. Okay, I forgot the service in that whatever. So within the phases, we have the processes. The most important things are the processes, not actually the phases. Yeah. What you will be asked is either to identify the phase and then a process within that particular phase. So it could be you ask, what is the phase and what is the process that is described in that particular case study? And then just let's have a look at this, okay? As part of your revision, please don't so much concentrate on that. Read for the knowledge, it's for the knowledge or whatever, but for the whatever, I didn't specialize on, I didn't really put a lot of emphasis there because you won't be doing much work there, but you'll be doing a lot of work in the service design, service transition, and the service operations. These 3 phases here, you'll do a lot of work in them. And that is why we are testing them in the exam. So let's look at the service design. Service design, can you see the things that are in red? The services which are in red, anything that is in red, simply, what I'm simply saying is that I need you to understand. I need you to read and understand them, know all the KPIs, know how to spot that it is that particular service. Anything that is in red, know which service which phase it is in, and know how to identify it. So for example, service level management. Service level management is where we agree with our customers. Remember, IT as a department is providing services to the business. So our clients are the business customers. Also, some of the IT staff are our clients, okay? So we need to agree with them on what is the acceptable, for example, time that when they raise, for example, an incident or they need something to be done, how long that thing should take. So for example, service level, you need to, when you're doing this one, you need to come up with what is called SLAs, service level agreements. This is an agreement between the IT and the business with regard to, for example, how long some things should take when they want them to be done. So you can say, for example, if as a business I raise an incident ticket and I raise a P3, a priority 3, I raise a ticket. Now, incident tickets can be in different priorities. You've got the priority 1, priority 2, and maybe priority 3. You can agree with the customer that for the priority 1 tickets, I want them to be resolved within 1 hour. You can say that for the priority 2 tickets, I want them to be resolved within, for example, 4 hours. And for the priority 3 tickets, for example, you can say, if it happens, if I raise a ticket, an incident ticket, and I put it as priority 3, I need it to be resolved in 2 business days. Now, this is a binding agreement between me and my customers. So, as a business, once I've agreed with them that this is what my agreement with them, then whenever they raise a P1 ticket, I need to make sure that it is resolved within 1 hour. The other thing, for example, let's say they raise what is called the request fulfillment. And here, let's say I'm a manager. I've got a new staff who has walked in. I need his account to be created, okay, so that he can have access to the network. He needs to have a laptop and everything else. If I agree with my customer that that process should take 2 days, so I can raise a request fulfillment ticket to the service desk, and the service desk should be able to coordinate that with the technical teams to make sure that I get my laptop, my accounts are created, and everything that I need is ready within those 2 particular days. Okay, so that's all about the service level management, where you agree with the customers, for example, what is the acceptable time for some of the things they should, the services they're providing for you. Capacity management. This is to make sure that whatever IT we're having, okay, IT assets that we are having, we don't have so much of it that we are wasting them, but we also don't have too little. A good example is, for example, my storage. I don't want to run out of storage, but I also don't want to have too much storage that I'm actually wasting. So the demand management, the capacity management is actually proactively looking at what I'm using in terms of that particular IT asset now, and be able to predict what I would need in the future. So for example, if for storage in the Blackboard, at the moment, for example, I am using, for example, 1 terabyte. of storage. Okay, 1 terabyte. Let me be realistic. Let me say I'm using about 100 terabyte for the storage of all of what I'm using within the Blackboard for HCT students. Now, it would not make meaning for me to request for 500 terabytes next year, because I would be wasting. There's no way I can leap from 100 terabytes to 500 terabytes within 1 year. But if I'm doing careful monitoring, I can be able to predict what I would need for next year. So let's say next year I predict maybe I'll be having additional maybe 50 students, blah, blah. So maybe because of that, I may need an additional, for example, 150 for next year. So in that way, I'm not going to run out of storage because I've got more students. I'm going to have enough to be able to meet the needs of my customers. So that is what capacity management is all about. Another one, for example, is a network. I'm having a network at the moment. I'm having 1,000 students using that particular network. If I'm going to recruit another 1,000 students and I maintain my network bandwidth as what it was, then I'm going to definitely have a service degradation. The service quality is going to go down because now I'll be having 2,000 students trying to access the same network with the same bandwidth, and that is going to cause service degradation. So as part of the capacity management, I would see, okay, if I'm going to have an additional 1,000 students accessing the same network resources, then I probably need to come up with other ways of meeting that particular need. Either I need to spin more servers that is going to serve these students. I need to maybe increase my network bandwidth to accommodate the additional students that I'm actually admitting. So what does that is your capacity management. Availability management is about the design of your system to meet your availability. So if you say, as part of the business says that they need the system to be available 24/7, then you've got to put in measures or design that will actually give you the 24/7. In other words, the system should be available at all times. So part of what is going to help you to do that is your availability management, okay? So those three, make sure you learn about them, read more about them. Service transition. Just as part quickly going through what the service transition is all about. There's no single organization that would actually be working from what we call the production environment. We'll always have different environments. So in most cases where you work in, you'll always have, for example, 3 environments. You can have, for example, test environment. Sorry, maybe dev. This is where you develop things and you test them. Then you can move them, for example, to the test environment. You allow the users to be able to test what you've developed. And then pre-prod, for example. This is where you do, for example, the testing, actual testing to make sure that you can accommodate, for example, the loads that you can have in the production, and then finally you move to the production environment. Prod, okay? So if somebody, I know if you've not encountered this, you may be asking, what are these environments? Environments are just infrastructure which are meant to be used for different things. So for example, if you are developing a software, the developers will be working on the development environment. That is where they'll be building and writing the code. Okay? Then once they finish writing the code, for example, the developers don't do the testing. Okay? They would push it, for example, to the test environment. in the test environment, we've got usually have a team called quality assurance team. Those quality assurance team do the different kind of testings in the test environment. Now that is different hardware, very totally different from where the developers are working, okay? Because developers work in a collaborative way, okay? So they will do the test in the test environment. Once we've done all the kind of testing, unit testing, integration testing, everything that the testing that can be done, then we move to what we call the pre-production environment. Now, in most organizations, pre-production environment and the production environment are always regarded as one thing. The reason why we always separate pre-production and production environment is because we want to test the performance. We want to make sure that when we build something for the production, we first build it exactly in the pre-production environment. So we build it exactly as we want it in the production environment, in the pre-production environment. Then whatever we build in the pre-production environment is exactly what we build in the production environment. And therefore, those two are usually regarded as the same. Now, service transition is what is guiding how we move from one environment to the other one. That is what is called, that's what the transition phase is all about, okay? This is not just about the software. This could even include something like a router. We want to bring in some new routers, yeah? We probably have that router. We don't know how, whatever. So we can have it used in a development place or test it elsewhere, and then change it in the test environment, and then change it in the pre-production before we finally change it in the production environment. And the reason is because we don't want to go and change something in the production environment which will bring down the system. We always try and avoid downtime when we are dealing with the IT systems. We don't want downtimes. So that's why we have this transition phase in the ITIL. And the two tools that you use for that are release management and the change management. So the release management would do things like, for example, schedule when that is going to take place. Make sure that that change before it goes to the production environment must have been done, for example, in the development, must have been tested in the dev, test, and the pre-prod. And it does all the coordination, making sure that all the teams that are affected are informed and are happy that the change should happen. The release management does that. Change management would make sure that this change, before it goes to, for example, the production environment, is authorized. So it deals with unauthorized changes. If you want to get your, I don't know about the UAE, but in Europe, and also in America, if you want to get a SAC, immediate SAC is make a change in a production environment which is not authorized. Okay, so for any change that you're going to do, including just even deleting a file in a production environment, you need, for example, an approved change. And then finally, once we migrated and it is now in the production environment, then we do what is the service operations. Service operations means now what we are doing in the live environment, in the operation, in the production environment. So this is where we do things like incident management, where if there's any problem with the system, then we report it as an incident, and then it is resolved by the technical teams. We report it with the service desk. Service desk either resolves it. If they cannot resolve it, then they move it to they assign it to the technical team. The technical team does their work and then resolves the incident. You've got the problem management. Now, if we don't know why the incident happened, then we must log it as a problem. And the difference between an incident and a problem is that a problem is an incident that occurred and we didn't know the root cause of that particular incident, and we don't want it to happen again in the future. So the problem management is mainly involved with finding out the root cause of why an incident happened. Incident management is concerned with restoring the service as soon as possible so that we can resume normal service operations. Two different processes. One, identify the incident as soon as it happens, log it, and try to get it resolved as soon as possible. That is incident management, so that we can restore normal operations. Problem management, an incident has occurred, we've already resolved it, but we don't know why it happened, and we don't want it to happen next time. So we raise a problem, and when we raise a problem, the reason for raising a problem is because we want the root cause analysis to be done. And problems are usually assigned to the senior people within the teams to find out why the problem occurred. And once they found out why the cause of the incident, then they come up with a way to prevent it from happening in the future. Hassan, I don't have the record now. I will share it. Let me just, I was not so much on the screen. Let me just see if anybody else had questions. No, Miriam. Problem management is not with the quick fixes, yeah? Incident management is about resolving incidences as soon as possible to restore normal operations, okay? Whereas problem management is mainly for root cause analysis, okay? Anytime you see root cause analysis, just know that we are talking about problem management, yeah? That's for Mariam. Event management, you don't have to be concerned about that. That is where we configure the IT assets. This is done by the monitoring team, where we tell them what we want to monitor, and we set up what we call the thresholds, and then based on those thresholds, for example, we get the tickets, event tickets. Request fulfillment is things like, for example, a new person comes in, they need an account to be created for them. We don't raise account creation as an incident because it is not an incident, okay? Account creation is a request, for example, a request fulfillment. We are requesting for an account for a new employee or a new student, for example, to be created. So we raise that ticket, then people have to authorize it. The line manager, for example, you have to say what access, for example, privileges do they need, and then it goes to the service desk, to the teams, technical teams, and the technical teams do what has been requested. Yeah. Esther, I don't know what you're asking because I think that is what I've been doing. I've been giving tips, and here I was just explaining. So if you just look keenly what I've been doing, that's what I've been doing, exactly what you're asking. Oh, what happened? So let's now go back, having said that. So this one particular question here. So coordinating the restoration of normal services. What does that tell you? That according to the ITIL, which of the phases is described in the above scenario and why? We are talking about the restoration of the normal operational services within the minimal, with minimal. Okay, the primary objective is to ensure that the incidents are resolved as quickly as possible with focus on maintaining high availability of the services. So that one there, for example, is incident management, okay? According to the what process, sorry, the first there, for example, this is service operations. Okay, the process there is incident management. Okay, and handling so you can use a primary objective because incident management, because the primary objective is to ensure that the incidents are resolved as quickly as possible with focus on maintaining high availability of the services, because that is what incident management is all about, okay? It's in the service operations phase because there is something to do with the service desk there. So there's the service desk and the incident management process. That are actually part of service operations in ITIL. The KPIs describe the benefits of this process. You can go to your slides. There's lots of, but I would need you to be able to describe. This one you won't get from the case study. This now requires your knowledge of, for example, the slides, or your knowledge or whatever. And also suggest 3 KPIs. There are lots of KPIs that you can suggest from. My main one is to help you with finding out how you can find out from the case study, which, for example, phase it is, and for example, which particular process it is, okay? So you need to know the phase, and you need to know, for example, the process, the phase and the process. And I've actually done my best to summarize that in this particular slide here. Everybody should have got these slides. If you don't have the slides, I'll share it again. Yes, Omar, I said just focus on those ones, those phases and those services. Correct. Correct. Yes, who's put those ones? Yes, Mariam. Mariam, you're spot on, yeah? You're spot on with those ones, yeah? Those are some of the benefits. They're all on the slides, and you can add many, many, many more, okay? I'm going to send the slides as well with all the answers, yeah? So don't have to worry about that. Right. Let's move on. Let's move on to the other one, okay? It's the same one now. But this is just a very similar, okay? The service is currently going through the service transition. So in this particular one, you already know the transition. You know it is already in the transition phase. So the moment I read the transition, what should come to my mind about the 2 processes that are very important in the transition phase? Release management and the change management. Those are the two main processes that should come to my mind when I see the transition phase. So those are the two processes. So okay, so we carry on. One of the processes that in this phase is to ensure that the process of controlling changes to improve impact is informed with minute. It also ensures that the consistent and repeatable process along with the appropriate is used to review, find, prioritize, document, and authorize all changes. Okay, so you can see we're talking about authorization of changes. So definitely it is change management. So that will be change management. Okay, and the reason for that is you can use any of that to justify that if you're asked to justify. Because change management is used to ensure a consistent, repeatable process along with the, or just to avoid making sure all changes are authorized in order to avoid unauthorized changes. I'll type the answers, the whatever, and I'll send those along. But that is how you look at it, okay? Correct, yeah. Number of, okay. Also, the other one, Sarah, that you can look at this, the other KPI is, for example, the number of unsuccessful changes as well. This is also important because this is, apart from the successful ones, you also need to look at the unsuccessful ones because the unsuccessful ones will also tell you whether you are actually doing changes correctly. So there's you've seen you put the number of successful changes, but also the number of unsuccessful changes is equally important. And we always monitor that. We always take to see how many of the changes we did, okay? Also, the other one that we look at is the number of downtime or disruptions caused by changes. Well, that is very important as well. If after a change you have a downtime, it means you did not test the change properly, or there was no proper testing of that change before you brought it to the production environment. So that's a very important thing. Or it also means you didn't have a rollback plan. Every time you plan for a change, you always have to, one of the things that the release management people will always make sure that you have is a rollback plan. In other words, if the change does not work as it was anticipated, how do you go back to the system that was working before? That is why it is also important to look at the number of the downtime or disruption caused by the change after the change has taken place. Really pleased by people contributing. This is honestly very, very positive. I'm really, really encouraged by that. Yeah. So that is it. Let's go for this one here. I don't think it's not something that I could actually dwell on, but the CL04 is you will find a text and then you'll just be asked to identify the gap from the text and explain why the gap is, and then probably explain an action that you can do to overcome a gap. So I'm not going to spend much time on this. It's very intuitive, but this is where I was saying, even though we are not assessing CL01, but you can see where CL01 actually comes in. It is implicitly tested in this particular CLO. So, because you have to identify the current gap in the implementation of IT governance. IT governance introduction, the characteristics of what is going wrong when IT governance is not in place is covered in CLO1. And so in this particular CLO4, even though it is a question that is testing CLO4, but you'd find it easy if you've actually done some reading and understand what is in the CLO1. So a good example, an IT department of the HCT runs several services for internal users, e.g. departments, e.g. other departments, okay? The service operation is highly focused on these services as compared to the design work to ensure service delivery is made on time. The service management model is effective to deliver services on time. However, it makes some of the services out of alignment with the business needs. So somebody asks you, what is the gap? The gap is so open. It's so obvious, okay? Remember my opening remarks in this particular, when I started this revision. If there's one thing you need to take away from IT strategy course is that IT needs to be aligned with the business. And so IT should only exist to serve the needs of the business. So let's look at this one here, for example. Everything is okay. They seem to be doing things so well. But the problem is here. This is where the problem is. That statement there is where they make some of the services out of. It doesn't matter how well you're doing things, yeah? But if you're going to carve services which are not aligned with it, then that's a problem. That's a gap. Okay? Yeah, Sarah, let me just get to that. So identify one gap, for example, misalignment with the business needs, okay? So IT, of IT, business need. Okay, the two are not aligned, okay? Explain why. Because the answer is there. Because the service management model is delivering services which is out of alignment with the business needs. It's there. They are having this service model, the service delivery model, that is actually making things not to be whatever. So that is why it is a gap. Action plan, for example, okay? You can apply a standard and consistent approach to service management and ensure that the services remains effective for business needs. You can, for example, another one you can do, for example, you can implement ITIM, okay? Ensure IT is aligned with the business. Which other framework is there that can actually be applied? COBIT. COBIT plays a lot of emphasis. You can implement COBIT to ensure the IT stroke business alignment. There's no one answer for this, for the plan. This is why your understanding of your frameworks comes in. What can help you to whatever. So you can do that. Use a framework to answer that. Use your general IT knowledge to answer that. Any of them will be acceptable, but there's no one single answer for this. I'm not going to expect all of you to apply a standard or whatever. Some of you can say, okay, it's a problem between the IT and business alignment. Therefore, I can use ITIM. I'm okay with that because it does that, okay? COBIT plays very much emphasis on IT business alignment. Yes, you can put that And I'm okay with that as well. Or we would be okay with that, okay? Sarah, let me, does that answer your question, Sarah? There's not just one, okay? Sarah gives me a thumbs up if okay, good. There's no one single answer there, okay? Sarah, I can't give you the same thing that will be on the exam. But if you study this, you will be very much okay on the 4. But I cannot give you the exact thing on the 4. But the way the questions will be structured will be the same as what you're seeing in the screen. That's why by revising this, I think it will help you. But it is not the same question, will not be the same question. But very similar question, similar concept in answering the question. Now, this is the last bit that I'm going to cover. We covered something about the strategic planning. And this is where the course actually gets its title, yeah? IT strategy. So at the end of the day, we are supposed to come up with an IT strategy. I took over the SETL of the course, but I didn't see any much emphasis on developing the IT strategy. I think you try to do it in the group work. So when you do the IT strategy, what I need you to take from this slide and take it very seriously is to understand why organizations need to do, why do we do SWOT analysis? Okay? Now, if you want to know, when you talk about IT strategy, we are talking about how we are going to use IT to support business strategy. So the business guys will tell us what they want to do. So they'll set their goals, their objectives, and everything else. Then they'll come to us, and then they'll tell us, how can IT help us to meet this business goal? How can IT aid us? At that particular moment, that is when we can talk about IT strategy, okay? IT strategy is now, how are we going to employ IT to help the business achieve their goals? And at that particular point, we have to do an assessment of where we are. So part of the IT strategy, the first thing we have to do is find out as is. Where are we now? In order to do this where as is, there are many tools that we can use, okay? We can use, there's many models. There's something called PESTLE. We can use SWOT, SWOT analysis. We can use PAINT, analysis, and you can use many other frameworks. We can even ITIM can help us, because if you're looking about our maturity, all the maturity models that we've talked about, okay, that will help us know where we are as a business as is. Very, very important for us to know where we are. And then once we know where we are, then we work out to be. And to be will be informed by the business strategy, what the business wants. So let's say the business wants to digital transformation. They want to go online. They want to go start selling things online. Then IT will have to find a way of how to assist them to go digital. But the first thing, IT cannot decide that you're going digital. No. The business has to decide they want to go digital or they want to have an online presence. Then IT will help them to get digital by implementing digital technologies, because that is our specialization. But in terms of whether we want to go digital or whatever, that has to be the need of the business. The business must have had the need to do that, okay? Now, that's where the SWOT analysis comes in, okay? So, we need to be able, as part of the preparation for the exam, we need to know reasons why we need to conduct SWOT analysis, okay? And the reason why we do that is we identify the technical resources. We want to know what we have in terms of technical resources. We want to know human resources, the skills that we have within the organization. We want to know where we're standing as an organization in terms of financial resources. Do we have finances to do what we want to do? We need to be able to identify the strategic direction. Where are we now? That is as I was talking about, and where do you want to go? That can only be done by doing the SWOT analysis, okay? By doing SWOT analysis, we can also help prioritize our IT initiatives, okay? And we can also do risk management. We can also do have competitive advantage as a result of that. Mariam. You are absolutely correct, Mariam. So strengths and weaknesses are present, are internal. These are things within the organization, whereas the opportunities and threats are outside the organization. You can't change or you can't control it. You're absolutely right. I couldn't have put it better than you've put it. So this is just so that before I go, this is just the notes before I go to the questions. Okay. So we always assess the current state as is. Okay. Once we've assessed as is, we ask where are we now. Okay. And SWOT analysis can help us do this. Here we can do SWOT. Then we come up with the strategic alternatives, okay? So for example, as is, we don't have any online presence, okay? So 0 online. We are not selling online at all. We only have shops where customers can walk into the shops. We don't have anything. We don't sell anything, okay? 0, okay? Then let's say where we want to be, where is to be? We want to go digital. So we are here where we don't have anything, and we want to go here. There are many ways of getting there. Those are what we call the strategic, okay? One of them, we can develop our own, build our own online, whatever, okay? Another one, and on our own data center. Another one, we can go and buy something on the cloud called SAS service, software as a service. We can buy a software that can actually help us to do that. Okay, so we are not actually doing the development. The other way, maybe we can buy an ERP. Okay. The other way, maybe we can partner with somebody. So we come up with all these alternatives. So we call them those alternatives. Those are different ways we can move from where we are to where we are. We're not selling anything online. We only have shops where somebody walks in, but we realize there's an opportunity for us to be able to sell online. We can reach wider market. We can provide convenience for the customers. But for us to get there, IT guys need to tell us what we can do. So as an IT, we can give them all these alternatives, okay? And then assess which of those alternatives that we have works best for the business, and then help them to implement it. So we do the strategic alternatives. What do you want to be? Okay. Yeah. And all those ones, okay? And then these are, for example, what exactly we could do. So if you look at this particular diagram, gives you a very clear picture, for example, of what you can do. Okay, so now let's go back to good background for that. This is just a case study. And for this case study, it's a long one, but I just want you to, this is a sample question of what you'll get. Identify the strengths of Edu, the weaknesses, opportunities, and whatever. It's very straightforward. What I've done is I've just created a list of some of the keywords to look out for. If you're looking for strength, those are some of the keywords that will often come in. If you're looking for the strength, things like strong financial position, strong reputation, and as Mariam said, these are your strengths. These are internal, okay? Now, some of these internal strengths can also be, they are not mutually exclusive. They can also end up being your opportunities in a way or the other, yeah? So some of them can, not all the time, but some of them can, okay? And all those ones, okay? Weaknesses, you'd often see these ones in your case study. Legacy systems. Things like legacy systems, okay? Things like silo. Silo is not good, okay? Silo simply means things are not integrated, okay? Legacy simply means things are outdated, yeah? Old technologies, okay? Unauthorized access, those are security issues, yeah? Compliance failure, you're not complying with it, okay? Those are, okay? Opportunities are things which are external, you don't have control over them, as Mariam said earlier on. Technologies, new technologies, something like AI. It's either you embrace them or you remain behind. So you don't have control over them. You may want to actually consider, okay? Something like increased, let's say, there's something called quantum computing that is coming up where you're able to, we're having more and more data and we need to be able to crunch those data. So lots of, okay? Digital transformation, everybody's going online. You're not online. Like what I was saying earlier on, you only have shops where somebody can walk in, okay? Remote working, okay? Things like sustainability. This is initially it used to be corporate social responsibility. Nowadays they call it sustainability, and all those ones, okay? And the ones that you're talking about there. So I just created that. You can use those ones, use it to scan the text and see what can come out of it. Now, if you read this, let me just do this. Because I want you to see, I made we are nearly finishing, so we should be fine. What time is it? Yeah, we're nearly finishing. So I put the Word version of it, but I tried to embed it. Maybe I'll send this Word version as well. Okay? But anything, I've lifted some of them word by word, okay? Positive words like leading, okay? High quality, solid or strong financial reserves, strong reputation. Those are positive things. Those are, okay? Those are, for example, things which are strong collaborative team, strong internal whatever, okay? However, the rise of digital learning platforms, okay? Even though it is, however, statement and evolving still, the company is finding increasingly difficult to maintain its competitive advantage. It's something that is out there for grabs. It may appear to be negative, but actually it is positive. Digital or whatever has a lot of advantage. You can actually not say that it's an opportunity. It's not really a threat. You cannot look at it as a threat. It's a new technology. It's a new way of doing things. Everybody is embracing it, and that is why you can see, for example, I put it in red. Okay. So limited exercise. Okay. So those are the reds in the reds. For example, greens are definitely strengths. I wanted to mix the colors, but I think I didn't get it right. Yeah, like this one's here: digital learning platforms, evolving student preferences. Are, for example, not weaknesses, but they're actually opportunities, and they're also not threats. Those are very straightforward and effective portfolio, tight budgets, and okay, difficult to provide timely technical, okay? So just read through and identify those ones. Okay, legacy systems, weaknesses, yeah? Bandwidth, lack of network redundancy, definitely, okay? Okay, then here, stresses competition, agile, okay? So that's definitely a threat. That's a threat from outside. Competition from more agile, digitally native educational platforms, okay? Data security is whatever because of the data being used, whatever. So go through the text, go through, for example, the slide that I gave out, and see if there's anything that you can get from that. Now let's go and see the solution that I have for that. Those are the what I've identified. You can go through them again at your own time, but that's how you whatever. So you have this to look at or give you clue, but also I've worked it out on that one, okay? And you'll get very similar question when it comes to, for example, identifying. It will be the same thing. Look at the weaknesses and look at the threats, okay? So based on the case study, we can always come up with what is called IT strategy action plan. You covered this in your group project. And this is where, again, I'm saying there's no right or wrong answer. It requires either your knowledge of the frameworks or your general IT knowledge of the things that you've learned from the time you stepped into HCT to learn about IT. Okay? Now, this is my advice for you, the tip for you when it comes to, when you've been asked to come up with IT strategic action plan to improve, okay? Look at the weaknesses and the threats and think of how to address the risk. Now, risk is very different. Risk has not happened, likely to happen, okay? Likely to happen, but has not happened. Issue is anything that has happened. For those of you who are doing, who have done project management, you know the difference between the two, okay? For each opportunity, think of how we could take advantage of them. So your action plan will always concentrate on your threats and risks and opportunities. Okay, strength is already strength, so you are not concerned about the strength. It's your advantage. You already have advantage over that. Okay, but look for your weaknesses and look for your opportunities, and then think of how you can address them. So in this particular case, for example, I picked something like digital transformation stroke weak online presence. That was a problem that we identified here. Okay, where was that? Yeah, weak online presence. They'll say, okay, and the digital transformation. Okay, it's an opportunity. Okay, there's an opportunity for them to do that. What could we do? What could we say? So, action one, for example, write what you're trying to address and then say how you're going to address. Focus on implementing digital transformation to ensure that EdTech continues to thrive and provide quality education in increasingly digital world, for example, okay? But you could also invest in digital marketing, social media engagement, and create compelling digital connect to strengthen Edu's online presence. Because remember, they had problem with that, okay? So for the outdated technologies, again, you could choose to do upgrade. There are a lot of switches and everything else, okay? You could choose to upgrade the IT infrastructure, outdated routers and everything else, okay? Or instead of that, you can choose to migrate to the cloud. That's an action. Any of them would be okay. It's you as the IT guy who's going to tell them what to do. You can either tell them and you look at the pros and cons. You can choose to do nothing, or you can choose to either upgrade or migrate to the cloud, depending on which one is feasible in terms of financial, technical expertise and everything else. You choose for the one that is, you choose the best action that you're going to do. Let's say something like limited expertise in online marketing. Okay, that's one of the problems that they had. You can say you can provide training and development opportunities to equip your existing employees with the necessary digital skills. That's a problem that they had in the case study. Okay, data privacy, for example, you can implement strong security measures to protect sensitive data and prevent cyber attacks. You can also adopt an action plan. For example, you could also just adopt 2017 and then say what that is going to do. Slow incident response times and lack of comprehensive SLAs. That is definitely IT service management. We just talked about ITIL, about incident management, about SLAs. Remember when you're talking about one of the services we talked about was service level management. That was a process within the ITIL. It can probably help that. We talked about slow incident response. Slow incident response, you can actually do that. So the action could be implement ITIL incident process and service level management to improve incident response time and implement service level agreements. Okay, and to finish off, I put in something that for you to do to carry on with that. I left those other ineffective portfolio management and understaffed departments. Let me see what you would do for those ones. So for example, in effective portfolio management, what could be the action? What could be the action for ineffective portfolio management? Anybody want to type? What do you think could be the action for that? Okay, yes. Okay. But how do you create those whatever? Do you know of ITIM and portfolio management? Consider ITIM. Look at what, consider ITIM and see what ITIM does. Okay. Also look at project management frameworks. Just giving you tips. I think 2 of my colleagues will do another session probably on Wednesday. I'll talk with them and see. So maybe I can ask them. We'll look at these questions next time. Understaffed IT departments. Okay, I'll leave it at that. We will carry on next time.
Messages about her Oracle account, which I have forwarded the email to you.
Okay.
If you can please respond, because the thing is, she needs to get her account resolved. Probably she will need it for her FOI exam.
Yes, sure.
So if anything from your side, or otherwise if we need to escalate, we need to speak to somebody in
No, I can do it. What's the name of this?
I forgot the name of the student. I just forwarded it. I said please advise.
No,
Thank you.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Yeah. Okay, Omar, if you go through this and you read what I've said, for example, I gave examples of, for example, ITIL services that you need to read, you should be fine. But this is a guide of the framework in terms of how the question will look like. The other bit that you need to look at is IT maturity model. Just I already sent this essay. Who did not get the slides? Okay, I should have sent, these slides were sent out. I sent the slides out to almost everyone. Are you from Sharjah? Because I know students from Sharjah. Dr. Mohammed didn't send me, because Dr. Mohammed didn't send me your emails. I don't have your emails. Abu Dhabi should have got it. Are you, Fatima, are you Calesto or... okay. Yeah, Rak also should not have got it because I didn't get Mohsin and Dr. Mohsin and Dr. Mohammed didn't send me the students' emails. Okay, Abu Dhabi should have got all of them, and Dubai as well. Okay, that's fine. I don't know how best to do it. Just hold on here. Let me see if I can attach it here. Usually it allows us to attach. Okay. Dr. Mohammed will
Doctor,
share
can you
with
email
the
it
other
to me and
students.
I'll
I
share it with
already
the
sent it to
student?
them, yeah?
Yeah.
So all the
Thank
Sharjah
you.
students, you should get it from Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed will forward it. He has the slides, yeah. Yeah, for the recording, I'll send the link to Dr. Mohammed as well, and then Dr. Mohammed will share the link for the recording. I've got the recording. I'll process it and then I'll share.
Doctor, if you
Abu
want, I can
Dhabi,
send
I
you
got all the
their
students,
emails
Dr. Sherif's
also.
students' email. So Fatima, can you just send me your email here? Just send it here. Oh, no. Okay. Here are the other students. Send me an email. Salima, all the Alain students should have got it. All my students should have got it. I sent
Where,
it to
sir,
all
should
my
we
students.
got it in email?
Unless you're not in my email
email,
list,
sir?
but I send it to all my students. Dr. Mohsin said he would send it to his students. So, Maitha, you have to check with Dr. Mohsin, but I've sent him the slides. Okay, Maitha, I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'll send it to you. If there's a way you can share it, Maitha, with the other students, that would be good, yeah? Once I send it to you.
Sir, Mr. Jim, Doctor.
Wadima, you didn't get it? Yeah, I can't share it in Teams type. I don't know why. Omar, I can't. I've tried it. Yeah, you see, let me share this screen so that you see. For some reason, if you go here, Omar, for example, if I go here, usually there's a place where you can attach, but I can't find the attaching place. It's been strange, so I don't know what has happened actually, because it would have been easier for me to send it on this chat, but I don't know. Dr. Mohammed, you have any idea? I don't know what has happened, because usually I'm able to attach documents on. I can't. There's no way of attaching a file. Usually it should be available, but it's not there.
Dr. Jim, I send you the two lists for my CRMs.
Yeah, I've
I
done the
have two
plus sign
CRMs, so
here.
you have the option.
Omar, that's the plus sign, but look at the option that I have. There's nothing there for. There's no. Usually there should be a place where you can assign, you can attach, but it's all there. Okay, that's fine. Anybody who wants. For my students, the students in a lane, I'll send it by email. You don't have to worry. For the students in whose lecturers gave me their email, I'll send it to them. So if you received an invite for this meeting directly from me, you should have received the file as well. So I'll send this file. I'll send the case study file as well.
For my students, I think.
And I'll send the solution as well. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm really pleased. The attendance was good and the participation was awesome. Really liked.
Dr. Jim, can you hear me?
The fact that the students themselves were contributing. That was very, very pleasing. It's been pleasure to have all of you. I'm planning with two of my colleagues. We may do something. I'm not promising. We may do something on 16th, but let me first talk to Dr. Kelesto and Dr. Sheriff. They may have another session on Monday, just before the day before you are. That will be just another session, and we have to agree on what is it that we need to cover in that particular session. Okay? So for those who've put their emails here, I'm going to send what you need. I'm going to send them to you. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for sparing the time and coming online. And with that, I'll call it an end. Bye, everyone, and see ya.
you.